Hello and welcome to this training. My name is Olivia Oropeza, and I'm the Community Prevention Manager at the Victim Service Center of Central Florida, or the VSC. At the VSC, we're dedicated to supporting survivors, educating our communities, and working towards a future free from violence. Today, I'm excited to present Understanding and Preventing Stalking and Cyberstalking. This training is all about recognizing the warning signs of stalking, both in person and online, and learning ways to protect yourselves and others. While this is a recorded session, I encourage you to reflect on the information and how it applies to your life. Think about some ways you can use it to make a positive impact. With that being said, let's get started. Let's go over what we'll be covering in today's training. Our focus will be on understanding stalking and cyberstalking, what they are, how they happen, and what we can do to prevent them. We'll also discuss resources that are available to help those who are impacted. Before we continue, I want to share two important notes. First, this training includes a trigger warning. Some of the content we'll be discussing may bring up difficult emotions or memories, especially if you or someone you know has experienced stalking or cyberstalking. Please take care of yourself and step away if you need to. Second, if these incidences have happened to you or someone you care about, know that you're not alone. The Victim Service Center offers free and confidential help available 24/7. You can reach out to our helpline at 407-500-HEAL. Or you can visit our website at healhere.org for more information. Finally, at the end of the session, there will be a survey. This feedback is incredibly important to us. It helps us continue to improve our trainings and ensures we meet the needs of our communities and keeps these trainings free and accessible for everybody. Thank you in advance for taking the time to complete that. Before we get started talking about cyberstalking and stalking, I want to give you a quick overview of the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. The VSC is here to provide compassionate, individualized services to victims of sexual assault, violent crime, and traumatic circumstances. Our mission is to support survivors through their crisis response, advocacy, therapy, and raising community awareness. Some of the ways we help include accompanying victims of sexual assault if they choose to have a forensic exam, assisting with reporting incidents to law enforcement, offering immediate emotional support through crisis intervention, safety planning, advocacy, providing therapy services that include individual and group therapy, and trauma-informed approaches like EMDR or DBT therapy. Whether it's immediate crisis intervention or long-term support, we're here for survivors every step of the way. If you or someone you know needs help, don't hesitate to reach out to our 24/7 helpline. Again, that number is 407-500-HEAL. You can also visit our website, healhere.org, for more information or resources. Now let's set the stage for talking about today's topic. We're going to watch a quick YouTube video that highlights how stalking is often romanticized, joked about, or just not taken seriously in the media and in our society. These portrayals can make it harder to recognize stalking behaviors and understand its seriousness. It's important we call stalking what it is and hold these harmful behaviors accountable. Once the video ends, we'll jump into a quick game of stalking true or false to test what you know already. So let's get started on watching that video.
Jumped out from behind a car. Were you stalking me?
No, Fred, you're crazy.
You stalking me?
And yeah, I'm stuck.
Get in here.
The window.
Now that we've watched that video, let's take a moment to reflect. What media references stood out to you? Maybe you noticed Twilight, SpongeBob, 50 Shades of Grey. These examples highlight major issues in how stalking is portrayed in our culture. It's often romanticized, trivialized, laughed off. But stalking is a serious behavior that can have devastating impacts on its victims. That's why it's important we recognize it and call it for what it is and challenge these harmful narratives when we see them. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit and test your knowledge with a quick game of stalking true or false. Here's our first question. Only women are victims of stalking and cyberstalking. Do you think that's true or do you think that's false? Did you guess false? That's correct. Stalking affects people of all genders, and while women are more frequently targeted, it's important to remember that men, as well as individuals of diverse gender identities, can and do experience stalking. In fact, research shows that LGBTQIA+ individuals are disproportionately affected by stalking. And overall, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will experience stalking at some point in their lifetime. This statistic underscores why it's critical to raise awareness and ensure that everyone understands the signs and impacts of stalking so we can better support all victims regardless of their gender or what their identity might be. Next question. Stalking only happens between strangers. True or false? That one's also false. Stalking just doesn't happen in between strangers. In fact, it's often carried out by someone the victim knows or relies on for support, such as a former partner, a friend, a colleague, or even an acquaintance. This highlights the importance of being aware of stalking behaviors in all types of relationships, not just those involving strangers. Recognizing these patterns is key to addressing and preventing stalking effectively. Let's move on to the next question. Creating fake social media profiles to follow someone is a form of cyberstalking. What do you think? True or false? If you guessed true, that's correct. Using fake social media profiles to monitor or harass someone online is indeed a form of cyberstalking. This behavior is often used to invade someone else's privacy, gather personal information, or even intimidate or control them. Just like in-person stalking, cyberstalking can have serious emotional and psychological impacts on the victim. Important to recognize this as a form of harassment and take actions to stop it and prevent it. Let's go to the next question. Cyberstalking can be as harmful as physical stalking. True or false? That one's going to also be true. Cyberstalking can cause severe emotional and psychological harm, just like physical stalking, and in some cases, even more so. The constant fear, anxiety, and feeling of being watched can take a serious toll on someone's mental well being. It's important to recognize that both forms of stalking are harmful and both deserve to be taken seriously. Whether it's online or in person, stalking can have lasting effects. Let's wrap up with the final question. Stalking is not a crime unless the victim is physically harmed. True or false? If you guessed false, that's correct. Stalking is a crime even if no physical harm has occurred. The key issue here is the behavior itself. It can cause significant emotional distress, fear, anxiety, and that's what makes it illegal. It's crucial to understand that stalking doesn't always involve physical harm to be considered criminal. The psychological impact is real, and the law recognizes this harm. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about stalking, its definition, and its statistics. Stalking is when someone engages in a behavior aimed at a specific individual that would make a reasonable person fear for their own safety or the safety of others or experience significant emotional distress. This can include repeated instances of being physically or visually close to the person, unwanted communication, verbal or written threats, or a combination of these actions. Some statistics to consider surrounding stalking is that every year, 13.5 million people are stalked in the United States. The vast majority of stalking victims, that's 82% of them, are stalked by someone they already know. It's not just strangers committing this crime. Nearly half of all college victims, 43%, who qualify as being stalked do not recognize or label their experience as stalking. A heavy majority, being 84%, of stalking victims report that it is extremely emotionally taxing. They feared for their safety and they wondered if it would ever stop. Do these statistics surprise you? How do they relate to your own experiences or the experiences of those around you? Stalking is more common and impactful than many people realize, so understanding these facts and statistics is a great step towards recognizing and addressing this harmful behavior. Now that we understand the definition and some of the statistics surrounding stalking, let's look at the different types of stalking. It's important to recognize that stalking is a form of domestic violence. It's a behavior that's intended to intimidate, control, or harm a victim emotionally, psychologically, physically. The damage caused by stalking goes beyond just the actions themselves, it affects multiple parts of the victim's lives. I'm going to show you some quotes from survivors, and I want you to understand that these are from real survivors and they give us a glimpse into the emotional toll that stalking can have on an individual. They'll help illustrate how types of stalking we discuss are truly affecting victims. The first form we're talking about is surveillance. Surveillance is the most common stalking tactic. It involves watching or monitoring the victim, gathering information about their whereabouts, their routines, their personal details. This can feel like a constant invasion of your privacy and a threat to your safety. A quote from one stalking survivor is, "He knows everything about me. I'm so frightened." This quote highlights how overwhelming it can be for a victim when their stalker knows intimate details about their life. There's a constant fear of being watched that's central to the experience of being surveillanced. Next is life invasion. Life invasion happens when a stalker shows up unexpectedly in the victim's life, whether it's at their home, their work, through online channels like social media. This behavior is intended to create a feeling of intrusion and control. One quote from a stalking survivor is, "My entire life has been stolen from me. My privacy has been taken from me. I'm humiliated daily. It's a living hell." This survivor's words emphasize the emotional toll of life invasion. When a stalker invades someone's private space and daily routine, it creates a constant sense of vulnerability and possibly humiliation for the victim. Next is intimidation. Intimidation involves behaviors meant to instill fear in the victim. The stalker's presence or actions are designed to create anxiety, insecurity, and make the victim feel unsafe. A quote from another stalking survivor is, "It's not easy to describe the fear you have when you see the stalker or signs of the stalker everywhere you go. I've given up all hopes of ever having a safe life." This survivor's experience speaks to the emotional and psychological damage that intimidation causes. The victim's sense of safety and trust are shattered, leading to a constant state of fear. Lastly is interference. Interference can include a variety of actions that disrupt a victim's life, from stealing personal items to meddling in their relationships, even sabotaging their work or their studies. It's about disrupting the victim's life and creating chaos for them. Stalking is a form of domestic violence, and I want to reiterate that to you. All of these behaviors, surveillance, life invasion, intimidation, and interference, are part of a pattern of control that harm and leave a lasting impact on victims and their emotional and mental health. So now that we know more about the different types of stalking, let's look at what some of the common behaviors might be. I want you to stop and consider what might be some common stalking behaviors. We know the types, but what are the behaviors that make up these different types of stalkings? Maybe think about some things you've seen in the media. Maybe you know someone who's experienced stalking firsthand. What constitutes stalking? Here are some behaviors to consider. The offender is following or watching the victim from a distance or close. The offender shows up driving by, hanging around places that the victim frequents, like their home, school, or workplace. The offender harasses family members or friends of the victim, tries to gather more information or access to the victim indirectly through other people. The offender waits for the victim at home, at school, at work, or other places that the victim goes regularly. The offender might send unwanted gifts, messages, items, even after the victim has made it clear they don't want any contact. The offender may break into the victim's car or home, an extreme and alarming form of control. These are just some of the examples of common stalking behaviors, but they show how stalking behaviors can escalate and cause intense fear and distress. As we move forward, it's important to recognize that stalking can happen in many different forms. The key is to never dismiss these behaviors, no matter how seemingly minor they may appear. We're going to learn later that context is crucial for understanding stalking. Now let's talk about who's at risk. Stalking is not something that happens to just anyone. It disproportionately affects groups including women, young people, and LGBTQIA+ individuals. It can be a tool for extorting control within a relationship, particularly when used by an intimate partner to intimidate or isolate the other person. A couple key statistics to keep in mind are here on the screen for you. 40% of victims that are targeted, 40% of victims are targeted by their intimate partners, showing how stalking can often be tied to controlling behaviors in a relationship. Oftentimes, people think that these behaviors can't occur within the confines of a relationship, but we see through the statistics that that's not true. Women are significantly more likely to become victims of stalking compared to men. We do talk about how this is an extremely gendered crime, but it is important to note that men are victims of stalking as well. There is a higher prevalence of stalking among LGBTQIA+ individuals and young people, highlighting the vulnerability of these groups. Stalking can also increase the risk of intimate partner violence by 3 times, making it a serious warning sign that should never be ignored within the terms of a relationship. As we move forward, remember that anyone can be at risk of stalking, but certain factors and situations do make some individuals more vulnerable. It's important to recognize these risks and understand how they can connect us to a broader pattern of violence and abuse. So, now that we know the basics around stalking, let's practice recognizing stalking by looking at some real world scenarios. Before we dive in, we're going to watch a short video that emphasizes the importance of context when identifying stalking.
Context is critical in stalking cases. It's really everything in stalking cases because a lot of times what seems the scariest to a victim or survivor may seem benign or even nice to an outsider. For example, let's say a victim returns to her desk at work and finds roses. She might become very scared, thinking, well, does the stalker know where I live? How did they find me? Maybe the stalker even said something like, I'll send you roses the day I kill you. Meanwhile, her coworkers are saying, oh, this is so wonderful, and have no idea why the victim's reacting the way that she is. So if you don't understand why a victim's so afraid, you can simply ask them, why was that scary to you? What message did that send to you? Can you tell me more about that? There are multiple studies that show that victim fear is an excellent predictor of victim danger. In other words, if the victim's afraid, there's probably a good reason. Not all victims of stalking express fear the same way. In fact, some may not express fear at all. Some victims may seem more annoyed, sad, angry, or have no apparent reaction whatsoever. Different people react to trauma differently, and that doesn't mean they're not experiencing fear and/or emotional distress. So to summarize, something may be scary to a victim that doesn't seem scary to an outsider. Stalking behaviors often have specific meanings only understood between the victim and the offender. And even if a victim isn't outwardly expressing fear, there may still be fear and still may be stalking. Context is key to understanding stalking and getting the tools to know it, name it, and stop it.
As we saw in the video, understanding the broader context, like the relationship between individuals, the frequency of encounters, and how it makes the victim feel, are all key to identifying stalking behaviors. Now that we've discussed context, let's look at scenario 1, coincidental encounters. Alex notices that they keep running into the same person, Jamie, around town, at the grocery store, at the gym, and even at their favorite coffee shop. After a few weeks, Alex starts feeling uncomfortable, but Jamie always acts surprised to see them and says it's just a coincidence. So what do you think? Is this stalking? Take a moment to consider the situation, think about the context, and how Alex might be feeling. So, what do we think? The answer is possibly, depending on the context. The key here is understanding that it's not always clear right away whether a situation is stalking. If Jamie is intentionally following Alex or orchestrating these coincidental encounters, it would be considered stalking. However, if it's truly a random series of coincidences, it may not be. The important thing to focus on is how Alex feels. If Alex feels harassed, uncomfortable, unsafe, and there's a pattern to these encounters, then it's crossed into the stalking territory. Context really matters here. How often does this happen? How does Alex feel? And what is the pattern of behavior? Let's move on to scenario 2, frequent text. Jacob's friend Anna texts him every day to check in and chat. They often make plans to hang out, and Anna always texts to confirm and coordinate. Jacob enjoys these interactions and sees them as normal behavior between friends. Does this sound like stalking to you? Take a moment, think about the context. So, what do you think? The answer is no, it's not stalking. In this case, Anna's behavior is simply a normal part of a healthy friendship. Jacob enjoys the communication and sees it as consensual and mutual. There's no indication of harassment, manipulation, or unwanted behavior. Let's move on to scenario 3, frequent work interactions. Grace works in an office where she often interacts with her coworker, Ben. Ben frequently stops by her desk to chat, but it's always during work hours, and he only discusses work-related topics. Grace does feel that Ben might be interested in her, but he's never done anything outside of work that makes her uncomfortable. Now, consider this scenario. Do you think that Ben's actions are a form of stalking? Take a moment to think, and then we'll flip the card. The answer is no, it's also not stalking. Ben's behavior appears professional and centered around work-related topics. He does stop by Grace's desk during work hours, but there's no indication of unwanted personal attention or obsessive behavior. Grace's feelings that Ben might be interested in her don't automatically make his actions stalking. Stalking has to involve repeated and unwanted behaviors that cause distress, fear, but in this case, everything seems to stay within the bounds of a normal and professional interaction. Let's move on to our last scenario, 4, persistent messaging. Sarah recently went on a date with John. After the date, John starts texting Sarah multiple times a day. At first, the messages are friendly, but when Sarah doesn't respond, John's messages become more frequent and more demanding. He starts asking where she is, who she's with, and why she's not responding. So, do you think that this is stalking? Take a moment to consider the situation. What would make it feel like stalking, or why might not it be? So yes, this behavior can be considered stalking. John's behavior of sending multiple messages daily, especially after Sarah doesn't respond, is indicative of stalking. His messages become demanding and intrusive, crossing a boundary from normal communication to harassment. This pattern of behavior shows a disregard for Sarah's boundaries, autonomy, and makes it a seemingly clear case of stalking. So great job working through those practice scenarios. Now that we've talked enough about stalking, let's talk about cyberstalking. For a definition for cyberstalking is the use of any interactive computer service, electronic communication, or internet-based technology to engage in a behavior aimed at a specific individual that would lead a reasonable person to either 1, fear for their own safety or the safety of others, or 2, experience significant emotional distress. This can include repeated instances of being physically or visually close to the person, unwanted communication, verbal, written, or implied threats, or a mix of these actions. Some statistics for cyberstalking: twice as many stalking victims are stalked using technology than without. Nearly 1 in 10 Americans has had a personal GPS device hacked or tracked without their permission. As many as 7.5 million people experience cyberstalking each year. And 16% of cyberstalking victims aged 18 to 24 have had sexually explicit photos or videos shared without their consent. Now, we're going to watch a short YouTube video together that shows a real-life case of cyberstalking. Please note that this video may be disturbing for some, so it comes with a trigger warning. Take care of yourself during this next segment and step away if you need to. Now that we've watched the video, think about some of the behaviors that you've observed. And I want you to take a moment to reflect. How were these behaviors in the video harmful to the victim? What were some of the behaviors that you noticed in the video that stood out as harmful or invasive to Kristen's private life? There may be forms of cyberstalking behaviors that are surrounding someone's whereabouts and their location. It may be regarding their personal information or their privacy, their cellular device, their online platforms, their social media platforms, their documents, a lot of different areas of somebody's life that could be affected by cyberstalking. Some common cyberstalking behaviors are listed here on the screen. This doesn't encompass all of them, but there are a few examples. Some key common stalking behaviors are The offender sends unwanted and often threatening text messages, emails, phone calls, direct messages, or comments. The offender humiliates or shames the victim online. The offender steals and or shares personal information about the victim. The offender tracks the victim's location or activity through a form of monitoring. The offender sends unsolicited images or content. The offender may catfish the victim or create fake profiles to continue stalking the victim after being blocked. Like I said, these are only a few examples of cyberstalking behaviors. It's important to remember that cyberstalking can manifest in many ways, often becoming more and more dangerous over time. So it's important that we can recognize cyberstalking behaviors and when someone's behavior turns from friendly to harmful. So it's crucial that we pay attention when behaviors start to feel uncomfortable, demanding, or intrusive. So here are some signs that a behavior might be harmful. It could be the frequency of a behavior. Initially, a message or comment here and there may seem normal, but if someone continues to contact you despite you not responding or explicitly telling them to stop, that's a red flag. There could be pressure or demands. Healthy interactions are going to involve mutual respect and boundaries. If someone starts demanding responses, becomes angry when you don't reply, or pressures you to share personal information or do things that you're not comfortable with, it's going to cross the line into an unhealthy behavior and possibly cyberstalking. Unsolicited content is another factor. If you receive content that you didn't ask for, especially explicit material or images that are distressing, it's a key indicator of cyberstalking. Another point is manipulation. If someone is creating fake profiles or trying to catfish you by pretending to be someone else online, this is another attempt for them to regain control over a situation and invade your privacy. These are some of the keys to recognizing when a behavior turns harmful, whether it's making you feel uncomfortable, threatened, or unsafe. Healthy communication respects boundaries. When those boundaries are crossed repeatedly or without your consent, that's when it becomes important to take action. So, with that being said, let's look at some of these practice scenarios for cyber stalking, keeping those elements in mind, such as frequency, pressure or demands, unsolicited content, or levels of manipulation. So, first scenario, Alex broke up with Jamie a few months ago. Despite multiple requests to stop, Alex continues to send Jamie numerous messages on social media every day, asking for a second chance. Alex also sends late night texts, comments on Jamie's post, and even sends messages to Jamie's friends asking about Jamie's whereabouts. So take a moment to think, is this cyberstalking? Why or why not? The answer is yes. This is cyberstalking. Repeatedly sending unwanted messages, especially after the person has asked for it to stop, is a clear sign of cyberstalking. In this scenario, Alex's behavior crosses the line from respectful communication to harassment. The constant messaging, late night texts, and contacting Jamie's friends all contribute to emotional distress and create an unsafe online environment. It's important to recognize these actions even though they may initially just seem like persistence or an attempt to connect. They are instead forms of control and can be extremely harmful to a victim's mental and emotional well-being. Great job with the first scenario. Let's move on to the second one. Jordan and Pat were in a relationship, but Pat started feeling uncomfortable when Jordan began constantly checking Pat's online status and questioning why Pat was online but not responding to their messages. Jordan would frequently comment on Pat's activities, such as liking posts, following new people, and demanding explanations. Take a moment to think about this scenario. Do you think this behavior could be considered cyberstalking? The answer is yes. This can be considered cyberstalking. Constantly monitoring someone's online activity, demanding expectations for their actions, these are controlling behavior characteristics of cyberstalking. It creates a sense of emotional distress, violates boundaries, especially when the behavior is persistent and unwanted. Great job. Let's move on to our third scenario. Chris had a public argument with their roommate, Morgan. In retaliation, Morgan posted private, embarrassing details about Chris's life on social media, tagging multiple friends and encouraging them to comment and share. Morgan also made several posts calling Chris a liar and warning others not to trust them. Does this constitute cyberstalking? The answer is yes. This is also cyberstalking. Posting private details about someone online and encouraging others to publicly shame them is a clear example of cyberstalking. This behavior goes beyond simple disagreements and becomes a targeted attempt to humiliate and cause emotional distress. The use of social media to spread false information, shame, or tarnish someone else's reputation is not only harmful, but also has the potential to cause long lasting psychological harm. Public shaming like this can lead to feelings of isolation, anxiety, and a loss of trust. It's important to recognize how these actions cross the line from a normal argument into a harmful behavior. Now let's move to our final practice scenario. Take a moment to think about it and consider whether or not it is stalking. Kelly's ex-partner secretly took intimate photos during the relationship. After they broke up, the ex threatened to post the photos online if Kelly didn't get back together with them. Kelly is terrified that the photos will be shared with friends, family, or the public. So, do you think that this counts as cyberstalking? The answer is yes. All of our scenarios do constitute as cyberstalking. Threatening to share intimate images without consent, often as a form of control or revenge, is a severe form of cyberstalking and a criminal offense in many jurisdictions. This behavior goes beyond just violating privacy. It's an abuse of power and can cause profound psychological harm to a victim, including anxiety, depression, and loss of safety. In recent years, technology has made it easier to exploit individuals in these ways. AI-based image manipulation and deepfakes are examples of modern threats where intimate images or videos can be altered or entirely fabricated. Deepfakes use AI to create highly realistic but fake videos or photos, often for malicious purposes, such as impersonating someone or fabricating intimate content. This type of image based abuse is extremely dangerous because it can be very hard to distinguish between what's real and what has been digitally altered. Victims of such abuse may feel trapped, as the internet can spread these manipulated images rapidly, causing irreparable harm to their reputation, relationships, and well being. Laws are evolving to address these threats, but the consequences of these actions can still be long lasting, where victims are often facing harassment, stalking, and significant levels of distress. So, that being said, let's continue discussing what the impacts are on victims of stalking and cyberstalking. When someone is being stalked, whether physically or online, the psychological and emotional toll can be profound and long lasting. The impacts extend far beyond just the immediate fear and discomfort of being followed or harassed. Let's explore some of the serious consequences. There can be fear and anxiety. This can be one of the most overwhelming effects of stalking because it can be constant. The victim doesn't know when the stalking may stop or what the stalker will do next. This unpredictability creates a sense of being constantly on edge. Victims frequently live in fear of being physically harmed or even killed, especially when the stalker includes threats that escalate over time. They may become hypervigilant, always looking over their shoulder, never feeling safe, and in many cases, they feel like they may have nowhere to turn for help. This fear is very real and is rooted in the powerlessness victims feel in these situations. There are other mental health challenges that come along with being a victim of stalking or cyberstalking. The emotional strain and toll of being stalked can lead to severe mental health issues. Many victims experience increased rates of depression, anxiety, insomnia, and eating disorders. The constant stress of being targeted can cause them to spiral into feelings of hopelessness, and this can lead to suicidality. The anxiety for victims can be pervasive, causing them to struggle to sleep, giving them panic attacks. They may not be able to focus on daily tasks and can lose work. It's important we talk about these to understand the impacts that affect victims mentally and emotionally and psychologically. There's also social and occupational disruptions. The impact extends into the victim's social life as well. Stalking can isolate people. They may feel too unsafe or ashamed to engage in their normal activities. They may withdraw from friends and family or social circles because the fear the stalker will harm them or someone they care about. Relationships can break down under the strain, leaving victims feeling even more vulnerable. Additionally, work life can be severely disrupted. Victims might struggle to concentrate, miss work, even lose their jobs because of the stress and emotional exhaustion they experience. The stalker's actions can interfere with their ability to focus on their career path and make it more difficult to make decisions like changing a job or a location to escape the stalker's reach. There may also be disrupted personal life and a relocation possibility. In extreme cases of stalking, the victim's entire life becomes disrupted. In some situations, victims may feel forced to relocate to a new home or a new city in order to escape their stalker. Obviously, this is emotionally, physically, and financially draining. It may not even guarantee their safety, as a stalker may continue to follow someone, harass them in a new location, or continue to monitor them online. There is a cumulative emotional impact here. All of these, when combined, create a situation where victims may feel trapped, hopeless, and completely overwhelmed. The damage caused by stalking and cyberstalking isn't just about those instances of immediate harassment, it's about the deep, lasting scars on someone's mental health, their disruption to daily life, their ability to trust others, and overall an emotional toll that can last long after the stalking might end. Even if the stalking stops, the victim still can experience these long-term effects such as hypervigilance, trauma, and trust issues. Now that we better understand the impacts, let's talk about how you can report stalking or cyberstalking and get help. Importantly, you need to trust your instincts in situations like this. If you ever feel uncomfortable, threatened, or unsafe due to someone else's behavior, trust your instincts. Stalking often starts with behaviors that may seem innocent or harmless, but they can escalate quickly. If something feels off, it's important to recognize it early and take the steps to protect yourself. Secondly, document everything. Keeping a detailed record is essential for building a case against the stalker. Document all interactions, including text, emails, voicemails, social media messages. Take screenshots, save records of any online activity. Keep a journal with dates, times, and descriptions of each incident. This documentation is going to be invaluable if you need to involve authorities or take legal action later. Documenting abuse effectively looks like saving your communications, keeping a log, and backing up everything. So ensure that you have saved copies of all of these documents, pictures, and videos to multiple locations to avoid losing your evidence. There are some helpful resources for documentation. There will be a resource after this slide through a QR code that you can use to have access to that live document. Some for you to note now for documentation are Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, which is an online source offering tips for tracking and documenting online harassment, and the Stalking Resource Center, which additionally provides guidance on how to track stalking incidences. Next, work to increase security measures. You can increase your security both online and offline by possibly blocking the stalker, maybe blocking their phone number, social media profiles, email addresses. You can change your passwords and ensure that all of your logins are safe and protected. You can unshare your location. Ensure that location sharing is turned off on apps like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. You can address your physical security by installing security cameras, updating the locks on your doors and windows, installing motion sensor lights on your home. You can also inform people that you trust about what's going on. Tell family, friends, coworkers, neighbors about the situation so they can also be vigilant and support you. Some online security resources are Stop Cyberbullying, which gives an online safety and overview of how to secure your personal information. And Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, it also will offer you general advice for protecting your online privacy. There are a couple of other resources as well that I will give you in that QR code. Next is going to be to contact authorities. If you feel unsafe, contact your local law enforcement. Report the stalking or cyberstalking to the police. Make sure you provide them with all of the documentation you've collected. This is going to be crucial for trying to take legal action. Many jurisdictions have specific laws against stalking and cyberstalking, including online harassment. So it's important that you report both physical and online harassment. In some areas, you can file a report with cybercrime units specifically, and many law enforcement agencies now have dedicated teams for addressing these internet-based crimes. Some resources for helping you report are the National Domestic Violence Hotline, the Cybercrime Division of the FBI, and Victim Service Center can help you with that as well. Again, those resources will be in that live document. Next is seek support. Support services are available for stalking victims, both emotional and practical support. Reach out to victim service organizations like the Victim Service Center for help with emotional support, safety planning, legal advice, or helping find a shelter if necessary. Many organizations offer free and confidential services, like the Victim Service Center, to help you navigate these emotional and logistic challenges of dealing with stalking. Lastly, consider a protective order. If the stalking continues or if you feel you're at risk, you may be able to get a protective order. This can legally prohibit the stalker from contacting you. Depending on your location, this may be called a restraining order, a no contact order. A protective order can require the stalker to stay away from your home, your work, your school, or any other location you frequent. It also includes other provisions like prohibiting the stalker from having contact with your family members. You can check with your local authorities or different victim services to find out how to apply for the protection order in your area. So let's talk about other ways that you can stay safe. For digital security, use a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters when you're creating passwords. Aim for passwords that are at least 12 characters long and consider using a password manager to keep track of your unique and complex passwords. Enable two-factor authentications. Adding an extra layer of security with 2FA helps protect your accounts. Even if someone guesses your password, they won't be able to log in without the second factor. Regularly change your passwords. You should change them every few months or after you know you've had a breach to help reduce the chance that someone can access your information. Make sure you update your software regularly. Ensure your phones, computers, all have the latest security updates to protect them against vulnerabilities that hackers might exploit. Install antivirus software. Install trusted antivirus software to prevent malicious attacks and keep it updated to defend against new threats. You can also cover the cameras on your computers and on your cell phones. There are physical covers available, and some people use stickers. Limit app access to your other accounts. Review what apps can connect with each other and can connect with your social media accounts and private information. Revoke access to any of them that you don't fully trust. Ensure that you log out of your devices when you're not using them. Next, social media safety. Be mindful of what you share online. Once something's posted online, it's very difficult to erase. Think twice before sharing your personal details, photos, or opinions that could be misused or cause you harm later. Check your privacy settings. Review what settings are set on each of your social media platforms and adjust them to ensure only trusted people can view your posts and your personal information. Make sure before you share anything online, you can consider how it is perceived or how it could be used against you. Even a harmless photo or comment can be manipulated in the wrong hands. Make sure you disable your location sharing services. Avoid sharing your real-time location on your social media and your apps. This could give stalkers or unwanted individuals access to your movements. Make sure you don't accept unknown friend requests. Be cautious and know that these could be fake accounts attempting to gain access to your personal information. Avoid sharing your personal details online, such as your address, your phone number, even sometimes your workplace. This can be risky, especially if a person on the other end isn't someone you know well. Don't post your location in real time. So avoid broadcasting where you're at in the moment, and instead, if you want to post about a vacation you're on, wait until after you leave the location to post any updates. Lastly, know that knowledge here is power. You can trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Early detection of concerning behaviors can help you avoid escalating threats. You can recognize red flags, signs of stalking and harassment, including, constant messaging, following you online, requesting information about your whereabouts, or using your personal information without your permission. Stay alert to these patterns that may seem excessive or invasive. You can cut off communication if you feel threatened. Make sure you stop communicating with that person. Block them on all platforms. Let them know, if possible, that you no longer wish to engage with them. Don't respond to their messages, calls, or emails from someone who's harassing you. Ensure you keep records. Document any incidences of harassment, stalking, or just inappropriate behavior. Keep detailed records of the date, time, and description of events, as well as screenshots, emails, and any messages that they may send as evidence. Report to the authorities, right? If you feel unsafe or threatened, you can contact law enforcement. Provide them with any evidence or documentation you have collected. Authorities can investigate and help take legal action. If you're not comfortable reaching out to law enforcement, you can reach out to the Victim Service Center as well, and we can work with you on safety planning and figuring out what routes you have. Be aware of scams or fake accounts. Scammers often use fake profiles to trick individuals into providing their personal information or to access their sensitive data, so be wary of suspicious accounts. Make sure you save all of the evidence that you record, and make sure you utilize the resources available to you. So like I said previously, there's a QR code here on the screen for you. This QR code, if you scan it with your smartphone, will bring you to a live document which hosts a plethora of resources for individuals who want to learn more about stalking, inform others about it, or if they're experiencing stalking and would like to work to either make their home safer, their online presence safer, or receive help. So make sure you get that QR code, you get that link, and you put it somewhere that you can access later. There will also be a link in your course contents for you to utilize. Today, we've covered essential information about stalking and cyberstalking, including how to recognize behaviors that may be harmful, impacts on the victims, and steps you can take to stay safe. Remember that stalking and cyberstalking can escalate quickly, and it's crucial that you trust your instincts, you document any forms of abuse, and you reach out to support if needed. Always prioritize your safety and don't hesitate to contact authorities or Victim Service Center if you need help. Please make sure you complete the quiz after you exit this lecture to test your knowledge, and don't forget to fill out the post-training survey, as your feedback is very important to us and will continue to help us improve these trainings. Thank you all for being here today. I'm Olivia, and I'm here with the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. If you or someone you know is experiencing stalking or cyberstalking, please know that you are not alone. We are here to offer our support and provide you with resources. You can reach us at the VSC hotline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 407-500-HEAL. Thank you.